Yeah, we will restart our live streaming. Quindi vi presento Daniel Bichara, è imprenditore, creatore delle aziende digitali, il fondatore di 2 prodotti a base dell'intelligenza artificiale di cui parlerà oggi nella presentazione. Daniel, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julia. Hi, everybody. And I'm sorry that I'm on video conference. I would love to be there with you. My name is Daniel Bichara, and I'm the founder of NorthPark. Let me see if I can have you here on the screen. Can you see, guys, my screen? Yes. So today, we are going to talk about a conversational intelligence, how AI is recording our relationship with knowledge. And the idea here is that we can talk and be like a conversation on what are we coming with AI and how we see knowledge and some perspective around that, and how that can impact all our lives, including every industry that we have everywhere. So the first point and the central insight, I'm clicking the wrong. So the central insight is that knowledge is shaped by interface through which we encounter. We have from the hand-copied manuscripts a long time ago to click and search web. Each leap has rewired not only our tools, but our minds. And that presents a new challenge and trade-offs. So we had 3 different interfaces when we were writing, then digital, and now AI, and how that is evolving our relationship with knowledge, how we absorb knowledge, and how we process knowledge, and what we are doing with that. So the first area, the manuscript, we have the scribes that have preserved wisdom from manually copied tomes. The knowledge was, like I said, is scarce because how much can we hand copy everything, and was transmitted at a glacial speed. Imagine how long it takes to copy an entire book manually. The authority was centralized at the monasteries, the royal library. They were the guardians of the knowledge and how they kept everything. And the written word was that everything that we had, but also we had very few people that could read and very few people that could interpret. So we had a scarcity, we had a sacred, and it was very slow. But knowledge was limited by what could be preserved and accessed. Think about some libraries that we lost through history. Think about the books that we don't have anymore. It was bottlenecked through the gatekeepers. So we had that knowledge and those gatekeepers, and only those who had access to those libraries and those monasteries, they could read the knowledge. And the transmission errors compounded over generations. So if we had someone that was writing something and through the copy was changing or using different words, giving different meanings, everybody copying from that source, we will replicate that error. Even if we consider the after Gutenberg invention of the press, and I remember when I was a kid, and I was buying books, and believe me, I had shelves, like this one here, I had shelves with books and books and books. I always loved the books. But we were limited, because I had to go to the bookshop next to my house to buy a book, and that would be available in my language. So at that time, Portuguese. And as I wanted to learn more and to absorb more knowledge, I had to learn English so I could have access to more. So you see, the access was also limited to for many different reasons. I was back at the time when I was a kid, I was living in Brazil, São Paulo, big city, but still, we didn't have that many bookshops that we could buy good books for, like what I always liked about technology, programming, coding, algorithms, and all this stuff. Also, the bottleneck persisted due to the capacity of reading and summarizing multiple articles and books on some subject. When we're talking about technical things, well, we might think, oh, that is this engineering way to do things, this is the math. But even if we're talking about math, physics, there are many different approaches to any subject. And my capacity to process all that, it was limited by my time, constrained by how many books I could read, and also how well I would be able to summarize all that. So putting together a broader perspective had some limitation. Then, well, we moved to the second era. We got a web shattering scarcity overnight. I remember my first web access was back in 1992. I just got into the college, Politecnico in São Paulo, and I had amazing access through their computers to a dial-up connection where I could get internet access at 14 kilobits per second. I don't even know, guys, if you know what that means, but it's like 1,000 times slower than what we have in our house nowadays. But I could instantly search archives, and that replaced memorization. I could search for some documents that I couldn't find. I remember very well, I spent the first 4 or 5 months searching on how could I get some algorithms to compress text and images so I could transmit those files through web and share with my family at that time. So we started rapid scanning, and that outpaced deep reading. My very first book on that subject that I bought when I was like maybe 15 or 16 years old, it was that thick, many pages, was giving me a broader perspective on algorithms to compress data, lossless data, nodeless data, and all that, no loss data, sorry. And then all that into much broader perspective. And I will start scanning just about that subject, and we can start doing that through filters and keywords. So when you start now, you search algorithm to compress data, we are going to get a lot of results. So we moved from that memorization to search. The manuscript era was about remember this, and the digital era, I must find that. And we stopped being knowledge containers and we start becoming knowledge hunters. We gained access, but we lost attention. So much data, so much access came with the difficulty to filter the noise, because any search returns thousands of results. I was impressed another day that I was even searching my name, and I got so many Daniels. And so many Daniels Bichara with my family name, so many different places. So that comes with a lot of noise, and then you need to refine, filter, and try to narrow down where we are going. Also, that rapid synthesis, meaning when we search, we get all that results. We started, it came with the trade-off of an inability to focus deeply. Well, I got so many results. How can I scan all the headlines? Do I have time to read all the text, all the content? And I don't. So we just get the headlines. We start becoming more like a headline knowledge. And we started being able to do just-in-time learning. So I need to know something on how to make a data compression algorithm. I would get an answer with 2 or 3 maybe public open source programs, and I would make 2 or 3 recommendations after reading a few hundreds maybe of those results. But that was a superficial engagement. I had no information additional about what that was about, what is the context behind that. So the search unlocked the micro-learning at the cost of the broader view. We start being very specialized on what we have. Then we come to now our current era, and that I'm going to talk a little bit longer, is when the knowledge becomes conversational. And we had the large language models now transcending retrieval to co-creation. We co-create answers. We are no longer pointed toward static documents. So we had the books, we transitioned onto that digital headlines and micro-learning, micro-content. And now we are going toward like how all that connects. All that content that were made available through the digital era, when we had all the connections, how that is now we can connect, we can put it together to talk, and then we engage in dialogues. If we think about the dialogues, it is not that much different the dialogues that we have with friends at happy hours. Of course, I guess I hope that at happy hours we don't talk a lot about algorithms and all this stuff, and we have more happier things to share and to discuss. But anyway, we can engage in some of those conversations, and through the dialogues, we can keep going the perspectives. It can be about any subject, any matter, anything that we think that we have in our minds, but that's going to be a dialogue. We have our points, our opinion. We share with someone that gets back to us in a way, and then that we moving us talking about AI, prompting, refining, and iterating toward understanding. Think about this iteration, and again, at this point, I don't think I'm talking to another human being. AI is not going to replace a human being. It's not going to replace my friends. It's not going to replace my therapist at this point. I think like more AI as a tool where we can go after the knowledge and we can ask and get answers. So being very transparent here, when I'm talking about dialogue and conversations, we are talking about an interface to talk and to make questions and get answers. And that's the new era that I'm talking about, a conversational intelligence that emerged through that asking questions, asking questions and answers process, and where we can start building some points and some thoughts and some and coming to some conclusions. And also, as we are interacting, that is contextual awareness, meaning the thought that we are sustaining through those dialogues, they define a context and they shape the meaning. And I will come back with some examples regarding context and meaning later. Then we have the collaborative thought. Again, we are talking about a human, maybe myself and talking to the large language model, to the AI, and AI. And this is a new cognitive partnership. I'm not talking to another human being. I'm talking to a machine that has a lot of technology behind that makes that work. So as we presented here, each of those eras, they create a different relationship with knowledge. Where the manuscript area we had, what does the text say? And we're talking about texts like those books, and we can go back to really old books, or then the books that when I was a kid, I was buying. Then we had the digital era where we had the knowledge as a resource, and where can I find this? And we start getting headlines and start getting abundance, a lot of results. And then now, when AI is turning into a conversation, or when the knowledge turns into a conversation in the AI era, what emerges when we think together? Please, think together. We're talking about AI. We are talking about a lot of content put together, massive algorithms, the mathematical, statistical distributions. We were thinking, even if you think about the most recent models where we have some reasoning, we are still talking about thinking as a human being. So based on these visions and the interfaces and the era, what we start seeing is that knowledge was never as fixed as we believe it. Even if you think about the books back in the manuscript area, AI is revealing to us that when we generate rather than retrieving, we see that a context has always shaped the meaning. And let's go here to something that is very simple to grasp. Think about the biblical passages and how all those Bible texts, how the interpretation of those texts, they change over time, and they even change through different cultures. We have people that might feel like you cannot cut your hair because the Bible says this, Bible says that. What you're talking about is the context. The person that is reading that is inserted, emerging in a context. and they have their own interpretation. We can also talk about as like going some complete opposite direction, but it's still talking about something that is in writing. Think about the Constitution. We have some countries that the Constitution goes back to 100 years. And the interpretation of the Constitution and the legal and the law evolves with the societal context and how we get at that. But the text remain unchanged. So that's when we start saying the context getting to the interpretation. And then we're talking about interpretation as being very active. And I guess the easiest way to frame this is if we think about reader response theory, that meaning that the meaning emerges from the interaction between text and reader, not from the text alone. One very simple example that I can remember and I can relate very easily is that most of us might have the experience about rereading a book years later. And that new reading becomes into new meanings, reveals new ideas, new ways to face the same book. The book is the same. If we think about a scientific book, history, it doesn't matter. Science fiction, fiction, non-fiction. The second time that we read, when we think about that, we are in a different place in our lives. It's a different moment. First time I read that book, I was a teenager. Now I'm a married guy. How that message resonates on me, it is different based on that context and my interpretation. And then we need to talk about truth. Truth has always been constructed through dialogues. And we're thinking about dialogues and truth. We can think about maybe me talking to my dad. He was telling me about his values, things that I learned, that built like the person that I am, the truth that I know, my values, my thoughts. And that's turning to how we go through the conversation. But we can also go something like a more elaborate, like the Socratic method, where through questioning, we get the meaning and we get to truth. I know I love Socrates. I know that is a lot of to talk about. This is not my point here. My point here is about how we can talk those interactions. The dialogue can drive us to truth and a new perspective. And if we want to go to be more scientific, think about a scientific peer review. Knowledge advances through the debate, challenge, and consensus building. So again, I'm talking about consensus building. I'm not talking just one person that is talking about what is truth and then someone observing that as the thing. I'm talking about this dialogue. And what happens is that maybe when we had only books that were not interactive from the point of view that I can make questions to the book, or through the search engines, through the digital time, where those interactions, they were very limited. What we're talking now is that AI makes that all more visible, that the context is shaped by meaning. We always had interpretation, and the truth is built around the dialogue and how we interact with those values and everything. That drives us to, I promise you, my very last boring point of this presentation, and I hope that I can show funnier things to talk about. But context shapes how both our brands and AI models create meaning. And context is a defining feature. So let's talk about how our brain uses context and to organize the memories, the understandings, and then how the AI models, how they use the context also to generate more meaningful responses. Think about when we are searching on Google, and then now even Google, how they are bringing new meaningful answers to our questions, to our search prompts. So what is context, how that connects with memory? If I mention, for example, talking to my daughter about our last vacation, her brain is going instantly to connect with our last vacation in Madonna di Campiglio. It's very easy for her that through our conversation, if I mention the slopes were great, I'm not talking about mountain biking. I'm not talking about some chart. I'm talking about snowboarding in the mountains with her, those days that we had some sunny days, and all that construction around. So the context starts providing meaning to what we are discussing. Let's think of something in a different level. If you think about a word and how that word is going to sound completely different based on the context. So for example, pitch. Pitch is like a word here, and yesterday we had a big baseball game. So pitch can mean many different things. If you're thinking about an entrepreneur or salesperson or marketing person, when we are presenting ideas, we have a pitch. We give a quick pitch on our products, our ideas, and our selling points, so let's say like that. If you think about music, pitch is completely different. Pitch, it sounds like the perfect pitch. If I say she sang opening note at a perfect pitch, means that it was the frequency, it was the right note, and it sounds perfect. And we can then move to sport, like I was saying, baseball, watching the game, and I said that was a fast pitch. A fast pitch was a fast ball. So I can be a fast pitch talking fast on my sales or marketing meeting or pitching to investors, or I can be a fast pitch as in music, and we go a really crazy frequency when singing, or I can talk about a fast pitch in baseball. That means a fast ball. So depending on the context and what you're talking, pitch is going to sound differently. The context that we are talking here is going to be created through that dialogue. So the dialogue starts putting together layers of questions and answers that is going to create that context. And then when we talk about pitch or my vacation to my daughter, that is going to know what you're talking about. So large language models, they work similarly. So if I start a conversation and I prompt in ChatGPT or any tool that you use for AI, and we start talking about Newton and Albert, and we ask how their theories connect. So Newton and Albert can be any Newton and Albert, but then we talk also about theories. So the AI's attention system is going to use that context to balance the output. And I'm talking here in a very high level. I'm not talking here about all the technicalities, the mathematical models and everything. We are talking then that Newton and Albert and the key word and the word theory is going to connect into a function that is going to get into a distribution model that you see that red dot that is also activate the brains. So if I talk to you Newton, Albert, and a theory, probably in my case, I would easily connect with Newton's gravity and Albert Einstein's relativity. I'm a technical person. But that is going to drive my thought based on those keywords and how that connects. The AI model is going to do the same. And the AI model is going to say, okay, Newton, we have Albert, so we're talking about Isaac Newton, Albert Einstein, and then they have theories is something different. So it's a mathematical distribution that is going to bring context around those keywords. If you think then back to the digital era, the previous era, we had a rudimentary version of context. So let's say that we are discussing at a bar and we talk, well, happy hour, and for some reason we tell a joke about a pregnancy test. And look, we all know our phones are listening, everybody's listening. So, and immediately when we open our Facebook, our social media, or we do some search on Google, you're going to start getting advertisements for baby products. That keyword, pregnancy test, trigger the system to start giving you something that is related to pregnancy test, and you're going to get a baby product. There is no context. I was just talking a joke, but at the digital era, the systems, they don't know the context around. They cannot process. They can just connect the keywords with in a very rudimentary way, where the keyword is going to trigger a filter that is going to connect to itself. And that's where we had this huge transition, where we get those keywords that didn't have the meaning, and we start translating into further down the road into how we can build that context and how we can create all that transformation through the meaning and the interactions. Then, well, we got here to the point where in NorthPark, we got all that together. We use generative AI as a bridge to the latest revolution, transforming passive retrieval into active conversational solutions. So think about how can we talk, interact in our daily, days when we talk trying to find solutions. So at any time in our existence as human beings, we were going to talk to someone. We went to talk. So for example, if I wanted to find a solution for a mathematical problem or for my financials, or if I had to discuss about how to bake a cake, we were always going to talk to someone that knew how to do that. Through the digital era, we start asking Google. So how can I bake a cake? How can I do this? How can I do that? And I would get thousands of results. Then still at the digital era, we start getting thousands of videos. So it's just a different way to consume the same information. And then we move it to the time where we start getting now some conversational solutions. We start saying, okay, you're going to bake a cake. What kind of a cake you want to bake? Do you like a chocolate? Do you like a carrot? You are looking for a bigger cake, so you're going to get your family. So you see all these different points that can help you to decide what cake you're talking about. Even considering your ingredients, they will come up during a conversation. So if I call my mom and say, "Mom, I want to bake a cake because it was Aline's birthday, my wife, a few weeks ago. So I want to give her like a surprise cake." I would not do that. Believe me, that would be terrible. But still, if I wanted to, then I had that crazy idea. Call my mom, and my mom would ask, "What ingredients you have? Where are you? What is going to be easy to find?" I'm in San Diego. She's in São Paulo, Brazil. So the ingredients that we have there, they might be slightly different than what I have here. So all that is going to be part of the conversation to get a simple cake. And I guess one of the things that we take very seriously is how at NorthPark is how we can help our customers, our users, to bake a cake that is going to make sense based on their needs. So let me see if I can switch here to our interface. And I'll tell you one thing, it is a secret, but a lot of people that knows me, every time that I have those like live demos and we show something, I always can face some challenge. And the reason is that we never know what is going to happen, right? So we can get a blue screen, we can do things, but I think that the best way to show something and to share an idea is to present that live. So this is not scripted. Of course, I had some tests and I can also share with you some failures. But what I'm going to do here is talk about how we can create things together through those dialogues, creating some context around. And I will start with a failure. So I'm already telling you guys, I woke up a little bit earlier today. I was preparing I was reviewing the presentation here, and I was running some examples, and I got a point that it didn't work. And I want to show with you firsthand what didn't work so you have an idea. I'm going to start the example with something very, very boring, but it's still, it was a problem for me, it is a problem for some people, and we have here the interface that is like, let's create something. And we can create, the idea behind NorthPark is how we create an app, and an app that can solve problems. Of course, the app is not going to bake a cake, but the app can give you ideas how to bake a cake based on your limitations, based on the ingredients that you have, how many people you're going to bake to, and all the ideas. But the first thing that we have is that let's create something, and maybe you want to create an app or a data source, so I want to create an app. And that's how we start the interaction. So we start talking about, again, with a machine, not a human being, but we can say like, if it was like a colleague at work that knows how to create an app, knows how to do something, and we need their help. So the AI comes back to me saying, okay, what is this about? So I'm going to get here simple prompt, and I'm not going to type so we can save some time, but I want to create a simple app that displays the current time using a time API. And I want the time to be provided based on the city name, country name, or geographic region, okay? And that's what I'm trying to achieve. I don't have I don't have new ideas right at this point. So, and the AI is going to come back to me and say, okay, so here's what we're going to do. First, let's clarify how you're going to input the data, what is going to be the output, what is the API choice, and how we're going to process and everything. So here, I want to tell you where I failed this morning. And it's like when maybe I'm focused on something and I want to try, I'm really focused on what I'm doing, and I'm not a multitasking person. I can only do one thing at a time. And then someone comes, like maybe my daughter, talking about my daughter again, but she comes and gets into my room and say, in my office and say, Dad, I want to talk to you about this. I said, yeah. No, but I want your opinion. No, you're good. You know, I don't want to give, I can't give her attention at that point. And then what happened here is that I'm going to show you is that instead of talking to the AI, I was saying, okay, I will follow your recommendations. It is just like, yeah, do whatever you want. And okay, the AI is going to start saying, well, you are following my recommendations, basic. So here are my recommendations. I'm going to use this, I'm going to use that. I'll get the time using this API. I'm getting the output is going to be the current data in time and the time zone. And now the technical details on how the AI is going to do that. And look, the AI is like my daughter trying to have a conversation with me, trying to know a little bit further. Okay, you don't want to pay attention, but okay. Well, how should I get at those locations? Are you going to type the city name, or are you going to type time zone? How should it display the data? 12 hours, 24 hours, American standard, European standard? Should the app handle some error message or something? And I said, okay, I don't have time. I will follow your recommendations. I really don't want to give you attention. And well, the system is going to give back to you as much time as you're giving back to the system. So the system starts making assumptions. What are you going to do with the input? And you see, if the input is going to be user-friendly location and all this stuff. And then I said, okay, that's perfect. And I would say, okay, I'm perfect. I can complete. So I say, okay, would you like me to generate the JSON? Yes. So done. With 4 interactions, I got exactly what I want. I really don't feel like relationships, dialogues, they will be like this. Because you cannot into like a four, I will do whatever you feel like it is good. I don't feel like this is going to has any chance to succeed. But look here, the system is generating the app, and it is in a structured form that is based on JSON, and it is putting together all the pieces that we needed to achieve that goal that we described. It is giving me like a simple, some idea how they are going to present, and I go here, so you have a quick idea what they're talking. So we get a question that is like a city or a geographical region. Then I have a function that is going to process that region, and here you can see what that process is going to meaning. So it is also a dialogue format. So you are a location processing assistant. Your task is to convert user-friendly location into input, into proper time zone. And okay, you keep going. And then we say, okay, we ask then the API. We formatted the output to whatever we want. And again, you are time format assistant. So you see, AI is building AI to create something. And then the format will be provided as a time zone, and here's how we are going to do, based on what we discussed, okay? Well, I got this. So then they put it to me, it creates to me this app. And okay, it seems nice, right? For 3 questions that I said, do whatever you want, we got this. So I'm going to say, okay, I want to know the time in Torino. So Torino, Italy. Italia, let's say like this. And okay, and this is what exactly is not working, so don't worry about that. It's going to be loading, loading, loading. And let's see. Nothing's coming out of this. Okay, so I'm going to try something different. Try to clear, let me reload. Then I'm going to say here, I want to Rome. And again, loading, 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 not coming any answer. And look, here is saying cities, countries, exactly everything that I wanted to. So what is going on here? What is happening? So let's try another example. Let's try to get a Europe, Rome, and it is not working. That was exactly the example. So that was a great reminder to me that even the dialogue with the computer, the AI, we need to give that. And look here, oh, now I got an error message. And now it's saying to me, oh, try Europe, London. So if any dialogue, even with the AI, we don't give us some attention, the outcome is not going to be exactly what we wanted. And that's my point here. We are not talking about a magic way. I see a lot of advertisement now about no coding, or you don't need to know anything. You just ask. Oh, I got to London. It says it's 2 p.m. in London. I think it is not correct. But still, I got an answer. That's one of the points. And but it's still not correct. So when we get back here to the app, let's try to do this in a more realistic way. And let's try to do something that is going to connect maybe with you guys, and something that is going to be less like engineering. And let's then talk about a context and how AI can help us with some of that. So I'm going to create a new prompt here, and I'm going to say, I want to create an app to help writers. And one of the challenges is that the writing, gathering information about historical, cultural background, so they can put together some insights about a specific country, region, or a time, so, and connect that to what the message they're trying to relay. So I want to get the app to search for social and economic cultural context for a country during a recent historic period using an API. If you are not familiar, API is a data source, is a way to interface and get information. You can have databases, you can have APIs. So the idea here is that NorthPark the NorthPark AI is going to connect a data source and bring some information. Can you help with this? Again, this is a dialogue. It is like if I went to a colleague that knows how to write app and I need this app, can you help with this? And then we start getting again, the AI is going to start talking back to us and what is the input. And this time, sorry, at this time, I'm going to get this. I'll give more attention. So, okay, the input from the writer is going to be a country name. Okay, so let's start talking here. The input will be country name and year range, start and end years. And well, the output for the writer will be, well, recommend, because then we are talking, recommend the most relevant indicators. Well, historical period, we are going to do something that is recent, history, meaning after 1970s. And the API reference, I'll tell, hey, recommend, I don't know an API that can talk about, I don't know. So this is when we start using AI to help us with some of the knowledge they have and what they can do, because they might know more APIs, more data source that I do. So I'll say, okay, please, I'll be polite. Please recommend APIs. So now you see, we are starting to be more interactive here. Okay, what I want, I'm giving more clear picture. I'm not saying, yeah, do whatever you want. I'm saying here what I'm going to do. And the AI brought back to me this idea about the World Bank indicators. And it's giving me even some idea about 16,000 time series indicators. It is perfect for what I'm saying because they can go back to 50 years and they have 45 databases. So the AI start giving you some ideas based on what the recommendation and what we can do. And you start seeing if that is a good fit. So we are talking with that expert, that person, that of course is not a person, but we're talking to that assistant that is trying to put together all the tools to fulfill our requirements based on the ideas that we have. Still, I'm not expert. I don't know anything about the APIs. I don't know how to get that information. So the AI is giving me back some ideas. And it is listing so we can get economic context, GDP, inflation, unemployment rates. For social and cultural context, we have population, demographics, literacy, life expectancy, urban versus rural, government expenditure. So we have some KPIs there. And then they are asking me, what can we do? Well, I really don't know anything about this API endpoint. So I will trust you. And you tell me what is the best. The output format, well, let's see if we have a summary report with key statistics for the period. We have a raw data that can be analyzed, that I can analyze, or a narrative summary. Okay, let's get a summary report. So there's number 2 for the output. Summary report. And for the country input, I'm going to say that we are going to full country name. Full country name. The input, let's say, will be user-friendly format. Because, United States and the USA should lead to the same. And what do you think about using data source? That's good. So we are giving back to the AI. And again, we are doing this live, so I hope that works. But usually it works. We test a lot. We have been working with on this system for the last year. So what you guys are seeing here, it is like more than a year of development and AI and algorithms and how we connected them. Part of the way that we are presenting here, you have a large language models that are connected and they are available, commercially available, but we also have some our fine tuning so we can drive the dialogue to something that we can achieve and that we can process. Of course, if you get your ChatGPT and you start your ChatGPT, I want to create an app, ChatGPT might be able to come up to you with some nice interface. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but still, it is possible. Okay. We have here a bunch of information based on what we talk, what is the processing logic, how that's going to be. Once I have the details, so I will follow your recommendations here because I feel like I don't want to overextend. Of course, that process would have to require maybe 1-2 more rounds, but our idea here is to get to the how we generate that app and what is going to happen. So AI is saying, would you like to proceed? Yes, proceed. Please proceed. So one thing that I want to highlight here, well, a few things that I want to highlight. You see, it is a new interface. So while it's generating here the app, it is a new interface. We are not more clicking and filling out blanks or filling code into specific windows. We are now having this conversation, and the AI is a tool where how we can proceed with, we can communicate and get our needs. So the AI is like a tool that is helping me on like the specialist expert level to create something to achieve my goals. This is a specialized AI. We are talking about connecting with data sources, databases, APIs to bring in generic information so we can achieve our some goals. If I was talking to one of the interns here at the company, if I tell the intern, hey, yeah, I needed this, do whatever you feel like it is good, do whatever and I don't give really directions, it's going to come up with something that might not work or not exactly work the way that I need it. And then this is the code, this is the structured code, and you see again here that we are going to start with the question, get the indicators, then we are going to have a historical context analyzer that is going to bring some significant points. And then I went to do some research, why Catalan, then we go back to Sicily, Sardinia, and when Catalan and some dialects. I know that we have other dialects in Europe, but the idea here is very simple. What happened, what is a country overview? And this is the app that we just created. It is same idea for the app that we just created. And what is the economic context and economic charge, typical historical period, includes shifts in industry, trade, and if we had asked to be more detailed, we could have created like a long text. But the idea here was just like for the presentation. And the cultural landscape was shaped for historical events and social changes of the area. We could go deeper into those insights. It's just a very generic one here. But we created this. And then, but this is in English. So again, if we go back to knowledge, interfaces, and what we mean about that is that, and our marketing requirements, because our marketing team is always going after me asking, hey, this is not good enough. So we always need to do something better. So the idea is that communication, knowledge at the AI time, we need to be more accessible. So thinking about the time that I was talking about the bookstore, where I learned English and how I had to learn English to buy books in English. Now we have the same here. So we think here about, okay, the interface is in English, but voglio creare un'app per aiutare gli storie. Sorry about my Italian, but I'm going to get it better. But you got the idea. I'm writing the prompt in Italian. Sorry about my poor Italian. And puoi aiutarmi. So if I'm writing something in Italian, what would I expect? I would expect to get an answer in Italian. And that's the beauty when we start talking about accessing the information, putting together with the AI. That is not a search engine, that is more going to be contextual. You will have a contextual awareness, and then an interface. The interface and the AI time should be at the language that we brought. And then we start the communication in Italian. We add one specific context information. Probably you're going to search about something that is more European, Italian related. So if you read here the prompt, you're going to see that the AI start coming back to you with something that is a better context or our needs as Italians. So you have what kind of KPIs we have, but then we are talking about different APIs. We are talking about the API from the SASHAT-DB and this other organization here. They are not the APIs that the AI recommended we are talking in English. And the reason is that those APIs, they might be a better fit if you are talking about in European reality. So the way that we are processing here, we are then talking about the interfaces using the language as an additional data point to create the context. And that's how when we bring all together. And again, with all my capacity in Italian, all that I can say is that, yeah, I will follow your lead. And because I want to experience a little bit what we have on this interface and how we create. So again, we are not talking about those like old Windows, Microsoft Windows, Windows that we had to fill out a bunch of different fields. We are talking about this process here, communicating, like talking to a specialist, and then we keep going. I really don't have the Italian skills to proceed on this. Only the best that I can do is that seguire tu consigli, and then we keep going. But I don't know. Maybe let's see if that's going to help. So that's what we bring as when we talk about context, when we put it together with access, language, interface, communication, dialogue. That's our vision on how to do all that. And while we are still doing here, so you see, for example, now the examples and the options that I'm getting is the nome del paese and is listing Italy. So the first assumption is that if you're talking in Italian, well, a good example is going to be Italy. If you're talking about, then the second example comes with Francia, because we have, if you have, again, Italian, you're talking about European. If you remember what we get back when we were talking with the previous interface in English, you're getting American and English and examples. So we are talking here how we can use the dialogue as the base for the context and to communicate and to get our final goal. That was something that I want to show, just like a quick breeze here on our interface. So then we have some different apps, different for US, an app for US population finder, city weather. One of the things that you can do is that you can create the app and then share the app. So you can share the app with someone that can use your app, so you can get that. And here I have shared the city weather app and what the city weather app does, and I can press the button here, and so you go. Those were the things that I wanted to share with you, and how we are doing things at NorthPark. And now I guess I'm open for questions. If you have something, I'm here for you guys.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you very much. In fact, there is a person that asked me for an opportunity to make a question to you. And I guess you noticed that we had one more participant on our call, Jonathan Melchiorre. In fact, he is here with us in person, but he's a PhD student, and he's working on his thesis, his PhD thesis, concerning the AI topics. So he asked me to talk to you, to ask you some question, and to show some slide of what he's doing. The only issue, we have only 4 minutes before the finish of the call. If you need some more minute, I will recreate another call just to let you talk. Okay?
Sure.
Jonathan?
Hello, good afternoon. And I'm Jonathan Melchiorre. I'm a PhD student in AI applied to structural engineering. And first of all, I want to thank you for your presentation. And I think that this tool is very useful, even because for what I want to briefly show you about using AI in structural engineering. I already used tool similar to the one that you showed us today, but I think that this that you show is more advanced in terms of like developing, because it's not just making code, but it's also organizing code. That's something very useful, because of course nowadays, given the opportunity that AI is giving to all the developer and all the people that has never done code, right now it is possible for everyone to start a project. But the main difference between a computer scientist and a normal person that wants to make code is about organization of apps. And I think in your tool, that is the main advantage with respect to the other tool that I already tried. And if you stop the sharing of your screen, I can show you a little bit of a project that I developed using a tool like the one that you show us. Okay. Okay, can you see the presentation?
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay, perfect. So last year I spent a few months in Princeton University. Yeah. I'm sorry, it's not working. It was in presentation modality from my computer. Okay. Yeah, since the call is closing because the time is expiring, I think we are gonna send you a new link for another call. Okay. Just in time.
Hello, guys, I'm back.
Thank you for being back. I was sharing this project that I had the chance to develop when I was in Princeton University for a few months last year in 2024. And it's a tool that was developed in order to connect the creativity of a structural and architectural designer to optimization processes. Because the main idea was to try to use the computational capabilities of AI in order to bring back the role of a structural designer. Because here I reported like a picture of designers working between the 19th and 20th century, in which they were using like physical models in order to develop optimized structure. And so the idea was today we have a very huge computation capability. So we use in general parametric modeling and optimization. But of course, we are using too much of AI, since the topic of this conference actually is about using AI for creativity. Since we are using too much AI in computation, we are losing the creative role of designer, especially in architecture and engineering. So the idea is, instead of using AI just to develop like optimized structure, we can also use AI to connect the designer to the optimization process. And the idea is to define a human-in-the-loop optimization approach in which the designer can give feedback to the AI and optimization algorithm in order to evolve the solution to a solution that is both structural, environmental, efficient, and whatever, but also that aligns with the perspective of the designer that is developing the structure. So the main idea was to develop like a process like this. And when I started this process, I was my first day in Princeton. I started developing the process, but I couldn't even like code in Python because I was used to MATLAB, and so I needed to start from scratch because everyone there was using Python, and so I needed to leverage on tools like the one that you showed us, and it was for me it was very useful actually because it allowed me to focus more on the process, on the workflow, with respect to actual decoding. That's I'm a civil engineer that is working with AI, but actually I'm not a computer scientist. So I need to focus more on the workflow than on the actual coding. So for me, it was very useful to have a tool like the one that you showed. And also, using the AI tool allow us also to not only give feedback from the designer, but the designer could also use the prompt and the images that represent the structure that they wanted in order to automatically generate renderings. So then, using the workflow that I showed, it was possible to define optimized structure that were both environmental efficient, with low cost solutions and whatever, but also aligned to the user and actually the designer preferences. And here I reported some of the results that our tool is able to produce. And here, for example, we have a Pareto front that represents the optimal solution for the structures that we are optimizing. But as you can see, if I change the user, it's we have the same order of magnitude in terms of environmental cost, but it's totally different in terms of user preferences. So we have very different solutions that represent the same cost, both in terms of economic and environmental impact. So right now we are working on a new tool in which we want to put together multimodal models in order to allow the designer also to just show a picture of the structure that they would like to develop or just to describe the structure. And instead of just evaluating structures that are proposed by the optimization algorithm, they can directly guide with a zero-shot method the optimization to the solution that they prefer. So my idea is I wanted to thank you for your presentation because I think your tool can be very useful in developing this this workflow that is already ready, but needs to be coded, and of course, since it's like a huge workflow, the organization capability of your tool, I think it will be very, very useful in this topic. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. And look, that's one of the things that we had in mind when we started the project. All my experiences with like engineering school, going back, and even the companies, we have that. It's going to be, we need to have this iteration. So, and when you think only about AI and like letting the machine run to bring it to the, let's say, their best outcome or most optimized outcome, we are removed from the equation of that dialogue. And our feedback is very important, because we know things that the AI might not know. What is possible, what is not possible, some constraints, and as well, what is more pleasant, like aesthetically, those concepts, they might not be like a natural to the AI. So that's exactly the idea. Get it to the whiteboard, and a whiteboard or a canvas, like what they call in AI, where we can get this interactive loop. We go back and forth, and the output is going to be a much better, more refined, and as well optimized product than what we had. So all that I see here in a very like a 10,000 feet overview, meaning very high level. It is possible with our current interface and our product. It is amazing that, and I would love to have an opportunity to collaborate with you to see how we can put that together. Because that kind of challenge is where I believe that we can get the most of the most benefit. Getting some real applications, what we need, and translate that into, create that solution. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you very much for your answer. It was very useful for us, your presentation of today. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. I guess we have another question.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Maybe you already said, but on what kind of data the model is trained?
Sorry, I got some echo here. What kind of
data is trained the model?
Okay, so we are using a blend of current available models. You can get it from the open source ones to like closest, like some commercial versions. What we presented here, it is a distillation of Llama, Claude, using reasoning from DeepSeek. So we are using a blend of those, and we are distilling and getting our final product. We use, as let's say, about how we refine our model. So then we are using the interactions that we are getting and the outcome to train the model. So for example, that app that I created for the time that didn't work, that we are going to reinsert that into the app, into the model, and retrain to get the final, get a better version. So everything that we are using right now, it is available through open source or the commercial large language models, refined, distilled, and then we use our own interactions to get it back to our model and improve it. I would say if the concern is about privacy, we have the same privacy concern that the models overall. There are some models, they don't really pay attention to privacy and copyright. We don't use them. So when you're talking about the models, we exclude things like DeepSeek. When you think about Q1 or some of those Chinese models, we don't use that.
Okay,
I hope
thank
that
you.
helps.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Thank you for your interesting presentation, for your interaction. I'm glad, I'm happy that we could make you interact with our listeners. You were extremely interesting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. It was my pleasure. Bye.
Bene, allora io ringrazio Giulia per averci dato la possibilità di avere a che fare con questi due splendidi relatori, soprattutto con Daniel, con cui spero ci saranno future collaborazioni. Sono rimasta veramente illuminata da questa sua capacità e dal prodotto che sta sviluppando, che credo sarà utilissimo a tutti quanti noi. Una visione completamente differente e direi che è stata una giornata molto forte, molto importante, molto profonda per il nostro lavoro di Itaca Digitale. Ringraziamo l'Arsenale delle Idee che ci ospita, Raffaele Zanon, che ci hanno ospitati per questa lunghissima diretta. Ringrazio tutti i partecipanti, tutti i presenti, tutti coloro che si sono connessi e sono stati abbastanza online. E grazie di tutto e ci vediamo alla prossima.